Hello and welcome to the second overview video of the University of Salford Wildlife Conservation Masters trip to Costa Rica in May 2022. We're going to start with the local Caiman. He or she was about 90 centimetres long, and we called him or her Earl because it was the silliest name I could think of. Now Earl was very, very beautiful, but didn't really do much at all. But we spent many happy minutes, indeed hours, watching him or her doing pretty much nothing. This is us on an early morning bird watching trip. And next we have Christoph being told that his Labrador back in England has swallowed his back door keys. We also had the opportunity to look at Lagamba's fabulous jewel wasp collection. After this, we have me failing to make use of a rainstorm to wash my boots. And next, some footage I took of leafcutter ants. There's more leafcutter ant footage available in one of my other videos on this channel. They really are fabulous animals. The level of industry and organisation is really spectacular, especially given they are almost entirely blind. There are four castes of worker, from the largest, who are porters or soldiers, to the smallest, one of whose jobs is to sit on the leaf fragment and fight off parasitic wasps that would otherwise hitch a lift into the colony. In some parts of the world, leafcutter ant colonies are so big they are visible from space and can number 60 million individuals. Next we have the adorable agoutis and coatimundis that often hung out in the garden at Lagamba and were very happy devouring the, many kilos of water apples that fell from the tree. Although the agouti is one of the few animals that can cut open Brazil nuts using their teeth, they are far from invulnerable, and the young would certainly be vulnerable to large poisonous or constrictor snakes, whereas the adults have been known to be taken by jaguars, ocelots, and I believe some of the largest eagles. The white-nosed coati is widespread throughout the southern USA and almost all of Central America, and it is an omnivore that feeds on small vertebrates, fruits, carrion, insects, snakes and eggs. It is very good at climbing trees, and some of these images are taken from directly below one. The spectacular green iguana, so-called despite the fact it is seldom green, can be found from southern Mexico to the southern Amazon and is the world's largest iguana. It looks like a sort of reconstructed dinosaur. Wonderful, wonderful things, and has a general sort of fuck you attitude because there's not that many things that can prey on a large adult. It was an absolute pleasure to watch them, and as you'd expect, they spend a lot of time basking to keep their body temperature high. Here we have a couple of baby iguanas, at least that's what we thought they were, and then the basilisk or Jesus lizard. Now some people think it is called the Jesus lizard because it can walk on water. This is not actually the case. It is in truth called the Jesus lizard because its father was a carpenter. Here you can see one doing the plank to work on its abs. In the oil palm plantation, most of the students and I were lucky enough to see a local kingfisher and then a reasonably large troop of white-faced capuchin monkeys. We also saw these on the coast near Uvita. They really are fabulous things. They look a little bit like a tired old man, I thought. These are found in the southern end of Central America and the very northwest tip of South America, and they've been known to live to 54 years. They are classed as vulnerable by the IUCN and are known for tool use, including rubbing plants onto their bodies, which appears to be some form of herbal medicine. Here we have a set of miscellaneous birds from the Gamba, which I haven't yet had time to identify. Costa Rica has a stunning diversity of birds, and it's just a shame I didn't know what most of them were. There are 600 resident species, another 345 migrants, and in total, Costa Rica has 8.5% of all the world's bird species. Remarkable for a nation only twice the size of Wales. And next is certainly one of my very favourite species of the trip, the spectacular Cherries tanager, with the males being red and black and the females orange and grey. For reasons I don't understand, the females were much more obvious and easier to see than the males, which is very rare in nature, particularly if a male is quite as showy as this red and black beauty. So yes, it was actually quite hard to photograph the males and relatively easy to photograph the females, but thankfully both sexes hung out around our chalet reasonably commonly. I think it's fair to say that he is very beautiful indeed. Here we've got a colony of stingless bees, beautiful, beautiful things. And now we have a large temporary swarm of what I think were wasps. As you can see, they're very small indeed. And next, a tiny, tiny colony of some pretty scary looking paper wasps hanging out next to the Calvin Kleins of one of the volunteer staff. Here are some assassin bugs hanging out on some beautiful flowers in the garden at La Gamba, targeting ants and aphids. Then a quite unusual ant nest entrance, some kind of thing I found under a leaf, and a butterfly. It looks like a British speckled wood, but it certainly isn't, that was thriving in the oil palm plantation. And here's a grasshopper before we move on to the spectacular odonata, i.e. the dragonflies and damselflies that I found in most parts of Costa Rica that I was able to visit. They really were wonderful, wonderful things. Great to see so many. We were lucky enough to see a very large damselfly in flights near Uvita on the coast, but I entirely failed to get any good pictures of it several times. And in fact, Costa Rica does have the spectacular Megaloprepus, the giant damselfly, which can have a wingspan of up to 19 centimetres. One of the best bits of the trip were the several night walks kindly organised by Matt O'Donnell. They were really wonderful. We saw a few sleeping insects like this damselfly, as well as a few cat-eyed snakes. Best of all, I think, were these red-eyed tree frogs, which I never thought I'd see in the wild. They really are spectacular. Next we have a climbing toad, quite a large amphibian. And after that, perhaps certainly one of my favourites, the gladiator tree frog, which we found both on foliage, on a gate, and at one point in the shower. Here we have a wide range of beautiful nocturnal insects, including a large green katydid, and now a few slightly ugly looking crickets, a fairly large stick insect, and a small red dragonfly trying to have a nap. Here is the wonderful smoky jungle frog. Males can reach 18 centimetres long from nose to tail, plus the legs, and I'm glad I didn't know at the time that the skin of these frogs contains one of the most lethal protein toxins ever discovered. Not that I was ever planning to handle one. A couple of lovely nocturnal lizards were also visible on the walk. We also came across a pretty spectacular spider and indeed a medium-sized spectacled caiman on one of these walks. And perhaps most beautiful of all, we came across a couple of hummingbirds in their nests, just trying to get some sleep. And I've included some sound here for the last bit, which is of a beautiful nightjar sitting on or near the road. This is what we heard throughout the night walks, a beautiful din of all these many spectacular frog species calling. And yes, nightjars really do have amazing reflective eyes. Finally, to show that it's not all glamour, or in fact there is almost no glamour at all, this is me lying in the wet gravel, photographing leafcutter ants. Then what I looked like afterwards. And finally, this is me very happy but very wet indeed in a rainstorm at La Gamba. I'd really like to thank everyone who was on the trip. You were all great. Please do check out the University of Salford's Wildlife Conservation Masters, and also check out my other Costa Rica videos and all of my videos on the YouTube channel. Many thanks and bye.